The interception of an Irish airline flight by a Belarus fighter jet, diverting it to land in Belarus, and the subsequent arrest of a dissident journalist aboard has left both the European Union and NATO military alliance scrambling to react to what Ireland is calling an act of piracy. There was also a possible act of espionage involved. Passengers from the flight here disembarking after finally reaching their intended destination in Lithuania. The French president's office has told Reuters that the EU may block its air and ground transport links in and out of Belarus in retaliation. The United States says several American citizens were aboard. Flight tracking data shows airlines are avoiding Belarus airspace.
Increasing numbers of protesters are transitioning from standoffs on the streets to military and weapons training in the jungle, fronted by some of the ethnic armies that have been fighting Myanmar's security forces for decades. Last month in the city of Bago, north of Yangon, protesters faced one of the deadliest crackdowns by security forces. More than 80 people were killed. This activist from Bago was there. He was shot while on the streets protesting. He does not want to be identified. He said the security forces were using rocket-propelled grenades. After that day, he and 9 other activists wanted to do more. So they left to train with one of the Karen ethnic armies.
Myanmar's supposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi has appeared in person at a court hearing for the first time since her government was overthrown by a military coup. Ms Suu Kyi is facing charges that range from illegally possessing walkie-talkie radios to violating state secrets laws.
Her lawyer said that she actually doesn't know where she's being detained, so she's been kept completely sealed off. They're not really sure how much she knows about what's going on, but her ally, President Win Myint, who was detained along with her, has told his lawyers that in fact they're being told nothing at all. They've got no sources of information. They've been held now for 16 weeks. So this was the first time that she was allowed to leave that secret place of detention somewhere in the capital, Naypyidaw. It was the first time she got to meet her lawyers. This has been a real source of concern for her, that there have been at least 5 court hearings and a number that have been adjourned. And until now, she's never actually been able to meet her lawyers in person.
There is word coming in of a military plane crashing into a neighborhood near Las Vegas, not far from the Nellis Air Force Base outside Las Vegas. The images coming in now, emergency crews on the scene at this hour. The search underway for potential victims.
Tonight, a terrifying scene in Las Vegas. Thick black smoke billowing into the sky after a plane crashed into a residential neighborhood.
This was an F-1 military aircraft that has crashed.
Authorities at Nellis Air Force Base say the contractor-operated plane took off from the base this afternoon and crashed a short time later near the southern edge of the base. Local police and military officials rushing to the scene, securing the area. And tonight, officials confirming the pilot was killed.
Peru says the militant group responsible for one of Latin America's deadliest conflicts killed more than a dozen people over the weekend. On Monday, the justice minister blamed rebels with the Shining Path for a massacre whose victims included children.
In the terrorist incursion, the massacre's victims were killed with firearms, fire, and other blunt objects. 14 people, including 2 children, were burned.
Pamphlets were found at the site of the massacre, telling Peruvians not to vote on June 6th. The Peruvian government considers the Shining Path to be a terrorist group. In the 1980s, they led a campaign responsible for the killing of nearly 70,000 people, according to a Truth Commission. The Shining Path today has dwindled, but has ties to narco-traffickers.
Okay.
We can actually shake hands. I know, it's a nice change. We too will give meaning to our commitment to our self-defense. If Hamas breaks the calm and attacks Israel, our response will be very powerful. The third point is peace. We need to work together to expand normalization between Israel and Arab and the Muslim world, and deepen the peace treaties that we already have. We discussed also how to improve the lives and the conditions of the Palestinians, the humanitarian conditions in Gaza, including the question of the return of our MIAs and 2 civilians who are there.
At least 9 Iranians reported injured on Sunday in an explosion at a factory in Isfahan, central Iran. The blast hitting around 4 a.m. in the Sepahan Nargostar chemical industries plant, where explosive materials and alleged military drones are produced. Israel, meanwhile, not suspected of any involvement at this time, but an investigation into the explosion is underway. And the incident coming just a day after Iran unveiled a new attack drone named Gaza in support of Hamas. Also, just days earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu exposed Iran as Hamas's biggest backer during the ongoing conflict with Israel, including during the latest conflict with the provision of armed drones.
Military officers in Mali detained the interim president, prime minister, and defense minister on Monday. That's what multiple sources told Reuters just months after the country's former leader was ousted in a coup. Sources said President Baanda, Prime Minister Mokhtar Owan, and Defense Minister Souleymane Decour were all taken to a military base in Kati outside the capital, Bamako. That came just hours after 2 members of the military lost their positions in a government reshuffle. The military's ultimate goal was not immediately clear. One official in Kati said this was not an arrest. Their detentions could exacerbate instability in the West African country, where violent Islamist groups linked to al-Qaeda and the Islamic State control large areas in the desert north.
I just thought I'm in for the battle of my life here.
Brett Highlands was fishing with 2 mates 50 kilometres north of Broome on Friday morning when he became the bait.
It's just a wild animal attached to my arm.
A 3-metre tiger shark.
I didn't have a lot of time to think, but I do remember thinking, oh my God, here we go, this is it.
The initial bite, gentle.
It bit, and then it bit again, almost like a dog trying to get a good grip of a bone.
Instinct took over.
I just ran the spear into what I could see was the belly of the shark, and it just released straight away and it shot off.
So did Brett, swimming 80 metres to the boat.
So I just backstroked and I kept looking under the water and to see if it's coming at me.
His mates used a diving belt as a tourniquet for the half-hour ride to Broome, where they were greeted by emergency services on the sand before being flown to Perth for surgery.